We're live, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Dina. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. I will note that Councillor Foster is not here today due
Recording
to
in progress.
Commitment. Sorry, Dina, I just got that notice. Is it
Sorry about that.
Was it recording from the beginning still?
Yeah, we're still on live stream and still recording. I just needed to record through Zoom for today as well.
Okay, thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. I don't have any before me. Is there anyone who has Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. On I know we declared it earlier, but on item 6.5.3, the grants, I have formally declared a pecuniary interest.
Great, thank you. And Councillor Watson?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I had submitted a form. I'm not sure if it's there with you on a couple of items. Do you have that form?
I do not have it. The clerks are shaking their heads that they do not have it.
I do have it. My apologies.
Okay.
I forgot to forward it off to you. It is bylaw number 17 and bylaw number 18 that need to be pulled.
Okay, just 17 and 18. Okay.
And 8.5. They're all tied together. It's all the same, but it appears 3 times.
And 8.5. Okay. All right. Seeing no others, adoption of minutes. We have our regular meeting of council minutes from January 27th, 2022. If I can have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 27th, 2022 are hereby adopted as circulated. Are there any corrections on these minutes? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Deputations, presentations, petitions, and public meetings. We do have a deputation today. Ms. Jody Lloyd, Chair of the Simcoe County District School Board, will be in attendance to provide an update regarding the new elementary school build and to communicate information regarding requirements for a secondary school. We also have with us is Tanya Snell, our trustee for this area. We were fortunate enough to hear from Trustee Snell a couple of years ago, which is why this time I thought I'd invite Chair Lloyd to come and address council and the community. So welcome to both of you, and I will pass it over to you, Chair Lloyd.
So thank you very much, Mayor Byfolchi, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the invitation to join you. I thought this afternoon I would just start by just sort of bringing you up to date on the new Wasaga Beach Elementary School. I'm sure you've been kept well informed by staff, but you know, we are working through that process. It has taken us a little longer than we had originally anticipated, but sometimes when there is a partnership involved and it's a project as complex as this, it does take a little longer as we all do our due diligence to move it forward. We are, you know, at the process where we hope to, as long as everything proceeds according to plan, to move to tender in the early summer, you know, depending on site plan approval and then the capital branch approvals from the Ministry of Education, with a targeted opening date of September 23. That will be a very aggressive timeline to meet, but we are certainly doing everything we possibly can to meet that timeline because we know we need this school open as soon as we possibly can. So just thought I would start by giving an update on the elementary school. So then moving forward, we are on to capital planning and capital priority submissions. So just to give everyone a little bit of background, in April of 2021, we were asked to submit to the ministry capital priorities. That was after a 2-year pause with respect to priorities. There had been no funding and no call for capital priorities for 2 years, which certainly was challenging for us as a growth board to not receive any funds during that time, because the growth didn't stop and we still had more students. So we were very pleased in December and then in January we submitted 10 priorities on that list. And we received funding for 3, which were Banting Memorial High School replacement, which is a project we have been working on for 7 years, Killarney Beach Public School an addition, and a new elementary school in Aurelia. And we also received some childcare space in Beaton. So those were very welcomed projects. We did receive the most funding in the province, and Banting was the largest funded project across the province. So we're very, very excited to be able to move forward with that. And quite by surprise, in early February, the ministry announced a call for capital priorities that we were not expecting, and it caught boards across the province off guard. So with a very, very tight turnaround time, the capital priorities have to be submitted by tomorrow. And we were asked to submit 5 priorities, 3 from our previous list submission, and 2 new priorities that were not on the submission list that we did in April of 2021. The ministry also specified the requirements for the projects to be submitted. And they were very specific in what they were looking for these projects. They needed to deal with accommodation pressure. They needed to do with a school consolidation or facility condition that did not require an ARC. And I'm not sure everyone's familiar with an ARC, but it is a combination review. And we use those to address aging infrastructure, under enrollment, and it usually results in a closure, or quite often results in a closure of a school. And those projects that we submit related to that could not reduce accommodation below 100%. So there were parameters tied to what projects would qualify for that. And then the third requirement was a French language accommodation, so which did not apply to our board. So staff have worked, it caught us off guard in the fact that we were bringing our capital plan, or our new, what we've referred to as our accommodation plan, forward next month. And so staff had to work to move that up to address this. So we did have a board meeting last night, and the recommendations of staff did come forward from that meeting. What they did do is an updated list of all the capital priorities that we anticipate needing and will be on our accommodation plan coming forward, which, for your information, does include a new Wasaga Beach Secondary School. So it is identified as one of our projects, and it has been broken out and separated from Collingwood. So we were on that plan, we're looking for a replacement and right sizing school for Collingwood, as well as a new Wasaga Beach Secondary School. So when the recommendations from staff came through, they recommended 5 projects. 3 from our previous list, which was the new Angus Elementary School. And just so everyone's aware, we have enough students in Angus and Portables to fill an entire elementary school at the moment. A new Alliston Elementary School, that is a growth, and new Bradford Secondary School as well for growth. Then the 2 projects that were recommended that had to be new and not on our priority list from the last submission was an addition at Nantyre Shores to address growth, and an addition at Arda Bluff to address growth as well. So staff put forward those rationales. And so these projects have to be built by 26-27. So there's very tight timelines as well. So we had to look at projects where we had access to the land was serviced. It was dealing with critical accommodation pressures, and we had to look at other options for sites where we couldn't meet these quick timelines. So we had a healthy discussion last night at our board meeting with respect to these projects, and they were approved. The staff recommendation were approved. Moving forward with the new Wasaga Beach Secondary School, and we're very committed, as has been expressed to you before, to building a high school in Wasaga Beach. We know that the community wants a high school, and we recognize that, but from my perspective, it needs to be done at the right time and with the right sizing for that school. So at this time, and based upon the current enrollment numbers in Wasaga Beach, we anticipate that the school in Wasaga Beach will be open by 2029, 2030 for that school year. which means that we're hoping that as we move forward and we deal with the capital priorities that we've been submitted, and we're always hopeful we get all 5. We don't know if that will happen, but we're very hopeful. And I have had discussions with the Minister of Education to stress to him the growth we have and the need to accommodate that growth. And that when we get the next call, we would be looking to put Wasaga Beach on there. One of the key factors in building a strong business case for the Wasaga Beach Secondary School is having the students, sufficient numbers of students to generate the funds we need to build the school. So right now there's about 630 students from Wasaga Beach. Our target is 800, ideally 900, but 800 is our target. That would generate sufficient per pupil revenue to allow us to build a school with fulsome program space. And so, if we don't get sufficient revenue, it would limit the opportunities that we could include in the school. And we want to ensure it has all the technology space that's needed. And, trade programming is very important. So we need to have that volume of students to generate the revenue we need to build the school. And I'm very committed that when we build a school, it needs to be a quality school that meets the needs of the students now and into the future. We're looking 50 years out when we build a high school. So it's really, really important we have that mass of students to generate that revenue. So that's sort of the updated timelines with respect to the high school and where we're at. And I know there's always a lot of discussion with respect to growth and housing developments, but I think it's always important to remember that as a board, we look at student numbers. That's what generates our business cases, is the number of students, not the number of housing developments. And it's always important to remember that there's 4 publicly funded education systems in the province of Ontario. So there may be housing developments and they may generate students, per household yield is much lower than it once was. But those students are not necessarily our students. They can go to the Catholic Board, the French Public, or the French Catholic Board. So we can't work with those whole numbers. We can only work with the number of students that would be registered or attending our schools. So that's sort of where we are. We are hoping, and the minister in discussion has committed to more regular calls for capital priorities. As we know, we're going into provincial elections, so we don't know what the outcome will be or what the future looks like, but the minister has certainly committed to having more regular calls for capital priorities, recognizing the need, it doesn't go away, and that specifically boards such as ours experiencing massive growth, need more frequent calls for capital and need to invest. So there, in this current call, there is 500 million in funding available that will be shared across all 72 boards in the province. So we're very hopeful that, our staff have a great history of building very strong business cases for submission. And we've been very, very successful in securing capital funding. So we're hoping and keeping our fingers crossed that we're just as successful with these priorities. So thank you, and I'm more than happy to answer questions. And I know Trustee Snell is here with me as well as the local trustee. So we're hoping between the two of us, any questions you may have, we collectively together will have the information for you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I did watch last night's board meeting, and I encourage others to watch it. I think it had, your staff explained the process and the information and those types of things that go into making these decisions. I think you had 20 days, including weekends, to put together your most recent proposals. And, at the end of the day, Wasaga Beach just didn't fit the criteria for that. And I think it's important that our community have facts and information about these types of things, because there's far too many things we read online that aren't accurate, including numbers of students. And, the census numbers came out and it looks great because we're growing and everything else. But the demographics of who's moving into those homes is really, really important. And I trust the school board staff the most to know how many students you have. You track those numbers better than anyone else. So I'm confident that we will get a school at the right time. And I was very happy when, I think it was Superintendent Dance last night, said 2029 is roughly when it would be occupied. So that is very exciting for the town of Wasaga Beach. So thank you for that update, and I will open it up for questions from council. Councillor Blanchet.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not quite as enthusiastic. I watched the meeting last night as well. And I want to thank our trustee Schnell for putting forward amendment to having Wasaga Beach added to the priority list. And I just want to point out that the municipalities number here in Wasaga Beach are outstripping the projections of both the school board and the county for population growth. And even in the meeting, they indicated that it really wasn't Wasaga Beach, that Wasaga Beach would be at 100% capacity if they were on the priority list. Now the concern was related to the impact on CCI. And, but I also believe that Collingwood's population growth is outstripping the projections as well. And I believe that they would not be at 85% after 5 years. In fact, they would be at 100%. I think we at least have to realize that forecasting is not a perfect science. After all, recently we had to approve elementary school on an emergency basis. And that has resulted in Wasaga Beach students as low as kindergarten being bused out of our community. So I think it's also important to note that the ministry had previously indicated that if we were put on the priority list, that they would provide the required funding. And just my last comment, after watching the meeting, my comments had nothing to do with this being an election year. It's about what our children here deserve in Wasaga Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And as someone who in 2005 collected signatures and presented it to the board, I think all of us are agreeing that our students deserve this. There is one pot of money. The taxpayers contribute to all of this, and we just don't have it to do everything all at once. And as far as Wasaga Beach being added last night, it was very clearly pointed out in that meeting that we just didn't meet the requirements or the criteria for it. And for the board to take another project off that did meet that criteria really would have impacted their reputation for putting forward strong business cases, and quite frankly, I think would have hurt Wasaga Beach down the line. So I understand that we want a school and we want it now, but there are rules to follow as well and policies. But Chair Lloyd, did you have anything to add?
Thank you very much. And you know, in response to Councillor Belanger, I can tell you that the board is very committed to its high school. We know Wasaga Beach wants a high school, and we are committed to that. But we are also obligated to work within the parameters of the funding and the capital priority submissions. And we, you know, it is not a pressure in Wasaga Beach at the moment at the secondary level, because those students are being accommodated within the board, and we look at collectively, and it would have left CCI under enrolled. And we are well aware of all the planning and numbers. Our staff work very closely with the staff of Wasaga Beach with respect to housing development, and the margin of error with our staff is very limited. Very few errors or mistakes are made, and their projections are very, very accurate and have been historically. So we work with that, and the ministry is very well aware of all of that as well. But you know, it is unfortunate that it didn't meet the criteria this time, but the numbers are not there to support the investment in the funding that would be needed to build a comprehensive high school. So we're close. Wasaga Beach is close, and you know what? If the growth projections, Councillor Belanger, that you're saying are accurate, and it does produce the pupils that we need, it may open earlier than 29 and 30 if we can build that business case, and we're committed to doing so when we can build a case that we believe the ministry will fund. And you know, governments before have made promises, and it's a different government in a different day with a different Minister of Education, and things change. And so we work within the parameters we currently have, and we make the best decisions on behalf of all of our students in Simcoe County, which we're required to. And I think moving forward, if the growth does happen, as you've suggested, that maybe we might see an opening sooner than 29-30.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'll just look to our CAO. Maybe our communications department could share last night's link to that meeting, because I really do think a lot of good information was shared that our residents, it might be nice for them to, oh, I see Mike's popped up here. Mike, is that something that we could do?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, we intend to share the update from today from Trustee Lloyd, and we intend to share some information from last night's board meeting through our high school Q&A, which is on our website at wasagabeach.com.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Councillor Watson, you were next.
Thank you, Your Worship. This councillor is very happy with the news that Ms. Lloyd has brought to us today, and Tanya Snell. Actually, here a proposed or a date in the future that this may happen is very exciting news. I sit here with a number on this council, including her worship and Councillor Wells, and Councillor Foster's not here today, but everyone's got a lot of, as they call it, sweat equity into getting a high school into Wasaga Beach. I first sat on council in the year 2000, and we were talking about it then and talking to the school board, and it's been a long process, but it's going to happen, and I'm very happy to hear this, and I thank you for bringing that news to us. And I think we're doing through our economic development, I'd like to see a report come forward, but I think we were taking some data ourselves from the new builds in town to try and find out who's moving in and how many children and of school age children are moving to town. So hopefully we'll get that information in the near future too, that we can augment anything that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're taking other steps as well when we did our circulation to the GTA to show, our new arena library build and all the things that are happening in our community. Those are things now that parents are looking at as incentives to move here. A lot of people are working from home now. And so I think we'll see a lot more families coming up and moving into the many new homes that are being built. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Jody. It's been quite a while since I've seen you. I guess I just want to comment. I was very happy to hear you say about the number of students and building a comprehensive facility. I know from my experience that bums in seats generate a number of teachers, and that number of teachers have to be sure that all of the mandatory programs are offered. And so in order to create a school that has the technologies for the OEAP programs, for students who want to go to trades and come out of the high school with a background of hours built towards their trade, is highly important. And so I appreciate your words comprehensive. I think based on past history of, I can't speak for today, I've been out of it for too long, but 800 even is a bit of a stretch to providing programs. The number that floated around when I was there was closer to 1,200 to provide those kinds of extra programming beyond the mandatory. And I think the one thing we always have to be aware of, and I'm not trying to put it down in any way, shape, or form, I'm all for it, but I think the other thing we have to be aware of is that we don't create a series of smaller schools that in which none of them can meet all of those priorities and all of those comprehensive programs. So I'm excited by the thought of the 2029. I think based on our growth, it's reasonable to expect that our numbers will be well in excess of the number needed to build that comprehensive school by that period of time. And I'll just give you one brief little anecdote. When I first became a principal, that was back in history a long time ago, we received every year from the planning department, the projected number of students that we were going to have the following year, and therefore how many teachers that generated for our school. And my first couple of years as a principal, I spent many hours poring over those numbers and trying to, show that we were going to be better than that, or maybe not as good as that. But, I spent hours poring over those numbers and then sent back reports that said, oh, no, you're not quite right. It's this or it's that or it's something different. And every year, it turned out the planning department was dead on. And so I'm just going to make that comment that unless things have changed dramatically, I have to compliment and the planning department at the board. They have it down pat. They have a system that works, and their calculation of numbers is generally pretty much dead on. Thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wells. And that's why I say, you know, when people hear things out in the community or they read it on Facebook, go to the source, go to the board, ask the numbers, get accurate figures, because far too often things get skewed into something that isn't accurate anymore. And that just riles up a community and gets them upset. So I think this is a good news story. It's, as somebody said last night, it's not a matter of if, it is when, and it's definitely on the horizon. So thank you both for being here today. I really appreciate it. And I don't see any other hands up. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. We do have a motion here. If I could have a mover and seconder, please, that council receive the update regarding the new elementary school build and information regarding requirements for a secondary school from Ms. Jody Lloyd, Chair of Simcoe County District School Board, for information. Councillor Watson and Councillor Kinney, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Comment and question period. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone registered today?
Yes, Your Worship, we have one registrant today, and that is Kathleen Caswell. Kathleen, if you would turn on your microphone and video.
Okay. Good afternoon, Kathleen. Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship, and Deputy Mayor and councillors. Thank you for giving me a few moments. And I actually came also to thank you for three things: the opportunity to meet with the mayor and the department heads last month, and the great addition to the website. I'm sure it's thanks to, Mr. Jennings, there he is. Climate actions was done very quickly and very well done. Thank you. And the continuing interface with the council and staff via Mr. Rogers. So my question today is related to Mr. Rogers' latest staff report, which is in section 6.5.5 of the agenda today. And he wrote, the action group tabled 8 questions which staff have committed to answering in due course as workloads permit. So we all know what happens when you give a busy person a project or a question without a deadline. Is it possible that we could agree on a reasonable time frame to respond to questions like this? The response might even be that we don't have the answers right now and check back in a few months. But any response is better than no response. So perhaps the staff member that is best equipped to answer each question could specify the time frame, or perhaps we could just say that a reasonable length of time of, say, 4 weeks should be enough time in most cases to give a response. So that's my main question today, but if you will bear with me, I just have 2 other small matters that.
Okay, Kathleen, I'm going to address that one first, okay. Because I'm not going to have staff members come on and start answering questions. I think we indicated to you before that staff have a lot of priorities, and absolutely this is one of them. When they have a chance to do it, they will get to it. It's not going to be forgotten, but it might be 3 months from now. So for them to, if they can get it done sooner, they'll get it done sooner. But, you know, at this point, there's so many priorities on their plate, but it's coming forward, and they have committed to bringing the responses back to a coordinated committee. I believe it was, George, is that correct? The reports will be going there. So there is a commitment there. It's on their list of things, so it will not get forgotten. But I don't think any of us can sit here today and give you, 4 weeks or anything else, not fully knowing what's on the rest of the list. So if you have another question, go ahead.
Okay, thanks for that answer. So the other couple of small things. There's 2 shows coming up this spring, the Home and Garden Show and the Seniors Expo, which are both supposed to be in person, which is good news. We have registered, the Climate Action Team have registered ourselves for a booth at both of these events. So our main goal is to educate the community on what they can do to lower their carbon footprint. So we intend to promote the $5,000.
Okay, so Kathleen, I don't mean to cut you off. Comment and question period is to ask a question about something that is on the agenda. It's not to come and delegate or ask about other issues. So if you have a question from something that is within the agenda, that is fine, but to start talking about other issues is not permitted.
Okay,
Okay, if there's an event coming up that you want council involvement or something like that, please by all means send us an email or something like that and we can respond. But the agenda, we have to follow the agenda.
very good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So no further questions then on the staff report?
No, thanks.
Okay, all right, thank you. Madam Clerk, was there any other speakers today?
No, Your Worship, that is the end of the list.
Okay, thank you very much. Under unfinished business, there is nothing. Correspondence received for information. We have a letter from the Honorable Greg Rickford, Minister of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry. We do have a motion here that council received the letter from the Honorable Greg Rickford, Minister of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry regarding the LDD moth for information. If I can have a mover and seconder. Councillor Wells and Councillor Kinney, any discussion on this? Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. If council recalls, when we discussed mitigation options for the gypsy moths, information had been provided that the county was very confident that this year would be a very mild season. It would appear that the minister is not as confident in that. And we go to great length with bylaws to protect our tree canopy. And this is a significant threat to our tree canopy, especially being a third year. And if it's a tough year, the most effective way is aerial spraying. It's unrealistic that individual residents can do that. I believe residents that have been impacted would be more than happy to contribute, but certainly it's not realistic for them to organize. Given this information in this letter, I think that maybe at a future meeting, we should have another look at the concern and the possible damage to our tree canopy. Thank you.
Okay, and I believe we did have the discussion about aerial spraying before, and that, you know, while some people might want it, there might be others who say, I don't want that sprayed over my house or my property. So I believe we did have that discussion. Deputy Mayor Bray, I see your card up.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that we certainly have had that discussion before, and I think there's as many who are anti-aerial spraying of chemicals as there are who might want it. There are some suggestions in the reports that were the information, I guess, that was attached to this report. I know I had shared them last night when I read them. I just felt they were very important because some of them are proactive, and people who were hit hard last year might again be hit this year. But if they can maybe get ahead of it, the report kind of indicates that, you know, get your burlap around the trees. You know, if you're going to spray, start spraying. You know, if you want to book a service to do that, do it early because the service will fill up this year. So I think perhaps we could reach out to Mr. Jennings and just make sure that this information does get shared, because his power to spread the message is much greater than mine.
Okay, thank you. I totally agree, and Mr. Jennings is there, so I'm assuming you will help us get the word out there, Mike?
Through you, Your Worship, to the Deputy Mayor. The information's on our LDD moth information page on our website, and we'll be sharing it through social media and our e-newsletters in the weeks and months ahead leading up to the spring weather.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Belanger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in follow-up, the height of our tree canopy makes some of those very challenging to cover. And I do want to point out that many municipalities in Ontario have sprayed successfully, so they have found a way to get around some of the concerns. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments? Councillor Watson?
Thank you, Your Worship. The vast majority of the trees come back. I've seen them in my neighborhood. They were stripped there last year, and later on in the season, they were all in leaf again. So come back, and My concern has always been, what is M&R doing with Ontario Parks in town? They own 4,600 acres. I don't believe they spray. So if they're not spraying, I think it's redundant that we may be spraying here because they own the most land in town and the most trees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to point out that our website page devoted to this subject has lots of information. And as we become aware of additional information, we're posting it on our webpage. We know that the County of Simcoe is monitoring the LDD moth and the impact on county forests. And we know the Severn Sound Environmental Association did a review as well. And so and the city of Barrie has done some work on this subject as well. So we're looking to have all this information posted on our website. So any resident who is interested in learning a little bit more or measures that they can take, certainly feel free to visit the website and read the materials on there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, George. I don't see any other cards. I've already read the motion. All those in favor? Okay, and that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to coordinated committee, we will start with community services. Councillor Kinney, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The following are the highlights of the February 10th, 2021 Community Service section of Coordinated Committee. The committee received a deputation from Hockey Circuit, which would like to run a new hockey school program at Wasaga Stars Arena this summer and have concerns about town's current ice. I had that word before. Allotment policy. Committee referred the matter back to staff. Committee also received a presentation for information from Kelly Donovan fit for duty regarding whistleblowing programs and why they are important. As well, the committee received for information an annual report from the Age Friendly Community Advisory Committee. The report highlights the committee's activities, including upcoming items such as the Senior Information and Active Living Expo slated for June 23rd, 2022. In addition, the committee received information the County of Simcoe Regional Government Review Service Delivery Task Force Fire Service Review Report. Council members with concerns on proposed efficiencies and other recommendations in the review were to share these with the CAO, who is preparing a summary report, which will come forward at a future meeting. Committee is recommending that council receive for information the Twin Pad Arena and Library Build Descriptor Report, and that the council approve the descriptor of Cortellucci Zancore name building as center. Once approved, committee directs staff to use Cortellucci Zancore Center for all future signs and communications relating to the facility. Committee received for information the monthly recreation, events, and facilities activity report, as well as department's year in review report. The report notes the department offered 120 recreational programs during the year. On behalf of the community service section of coordinating committee, I ask that council approve the recommendations in this report. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Councillor Kinney? Okay, moving on to Public Works, Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship. The following are the highlights from the February 10th, 2022 Public Works section of Coordinated Committee. Committee received the Capital Works Project Status Report for information. The report highlights the progress made on a number of projects taking place in the community, including planning for construction work that will happen over the spring and summer. Committee also received for information the 2021 Risk Management Official Annual Report. The report summarizes source water protection activities taken in 2021. The report notes all existing threats to the town's drinking water system were addressed. The full report is available on the town website for review. Committee also received the Water Pollution Control Plant Monthly Performance Report and the Drinking Water System Monthly Performance Report. Both reports show the systems are meeting operational standards. Committee is recommending that Council authorize the pre-purchase of turbo blowers from APGN at a cost of $260,800, excluding HST, and a rotary drum thickener and polymer systems from Alpha Laval at a cost of $257,884, excluding HST. The equipment is for upgrades taking place at the Water Pollution Control Plant. Committee also received for information public transit statistics for January, which showed continued strong use of Wasaga Beach Transit as well as County of Simcoe Transit. On behalf of the Public Works section of Coordinated Committee, I ask that Council receive this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Councillor Watson? Okay, moving on to Development Committee, and in Councillor Foster's absence, I believe it's Deputy Mayor Bray will speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor Byfolchi. The following are the highlights of the February 10th, 2022 Development Services section of Coordinated Committee. Committee is recommending that Council approve the creation of 48 residential lots for a property in the Stonebridge by the Bay development in the East End, subject to stipulations outlined in the related staff report. Townhomes are under construction on the property, and the creation of the lots will allow the sale of the homes. Committee received the Building Department activity summary for January. The department issued approximately 125 permits for the month, including permits for 84 single detached homes and 29 townhomes. Committee also received the Economic Development Officer's monthly report. This report included information on 2021 business closures and openings. The town is aware of 74 businesses that opened in 2021 and 45 businesses that closed during the year, for a net gain of 29 businesses. At the end of 2021, the town had 530 licensed businesses operating. These figures do not include regulated businesses, as they do not require a business license. Committee is recommending that Council approve extending the temporary open patios program for restaurants to January 1st, 2023. Full details of the proposed extension are in the related staff report. As well, Committee is recommending that Council approve Rockefeller Road and Metropolitan Drive as the road names for the Ansley Grove residential development, and that Northgate Road maintain its name until it terminates at Rockefeller Road. Committee is recommending that Council accept the staff report summarizing the County of Simcoe memo on the ongoing municipal comprehensive review. The review is a technical planning exercise designed to bring the county's official plan into conformity with provincial planning policies. Committee is recommending that Council authorize staff to permit kitchen facilities to remain at a licensed B&B at 7 Simcoe Street on a temporary basis until January 1st, 2023, subject to meeting any requirements under the Ontario Building Code. On behalf of the Development Services section of Coordinated Committee, I ask that Council approve the recommendations in this report. Thank you on behalf of Councillor Foster.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Development Committee report. Okay, if you want to carry on then with General Government, thank you.
Seeing none, the following are the highlights from the February 10th, 2022 General Government Services section of Coordinated Committee. Committee is recommending that Council approve spending an unbudgeted grant-funded amount of $50,880 to hire a consultant to review the town's procurement policy and related processes. The Municipal Modernization Funding Grant will pay for the project. The town will identify a consultant for the work using an RFP process. Committee is recommending that Council approve the community grants listed in the Municipal Grants Program 2022 allocations report. The amount totals $34,482. Committee approved the mayor writing the province to ask that the provincial budget include money for recreational infrastructure projects. The province has asked for input on what the upcoming budget should contain. The town would apply for provincial funding to offset the cost of the community's new twin pad, arena, and library facility. Committee also received a follow-up report on what the municipality is doing to mitigate climate change. The update highlights steps the Clerk's Department and the Municipal Law Enforcement Department are taking. On behalf of the General Government Services section of Coordinated Committee, I ask that Council approve the recommendations in this report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that report? Okay, we do have a motion that council receive the coordinated committee reports of February 10th, 2022 as circulated and approves all actions contained therein. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Kinney and Councillor Boulanger, all in favor? And that is carried. Accounts that will come forward at the March regular council meeting. Item 8.3, Executive Assistant report regarding proclamations and flag raisings. That council received the information report pertaining to proclamations and flag raisings for the month of February 2022 for information. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Kinney and Deputy Mayor Bray. All those in favor? And that is carried. Item 8.4, we have a motion or recommendation from the Director of Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library 2021 year in review. The motion reads that council received the Wasaga Beach Public Library 2021 year in review for information. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Bray, Councillor Kinney, and I saw Deputy Mayor Bray, you wish to speak to that?
Yes, please. This is just a report I look forward to every year. I think it highlights what amazing things are being accomplished in a very small space. So we obviously have dedicated staff, and they were faced with difficulties throughout COVID, but they kind of rose to the challenge and created some really innovative programs and kept the community active and involved and accessed many of the online resources. They were able to provide help with technology. So a lot of seniors that maybe had a tablet but didn't quite know how to use Zoom or FaceTime to connect to their family. So I really think the library had a huge part in survive this pandemic, and I wanted to congratulate them on a really well-written report that summarizes the great accomplishments. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Bray, for speaking to this item also. You know, I hear a lot of chatter that, you know, libraries are a fossil, they're extinct in this. And when I look at the numbers here, I look for this report every year also, and I'll just mention a few, but I'm looking at 17,500 visitors, 9,349 members of the library, 22,660 ebooks borrowed, children's programs, 2,400 children engaged in programs, and the bookmobile, which is near and dear to my heart, is getting out there and served over 1,166 people and 470 children this year. Just wonderful news, and you just watch these numbers explode when this new facility gets in the town, and people are just going to love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other cards, I've read the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried. Next, we have a motion, planner's report regarding application for exemption to part lot control for Haymount Investments. The motion reads that council approve the application for exemption to part lot control PL 0421 to permit the division of Block 4 Plan 51M 1203 as illustrated in attachment number 2 into 7 lots, and that the appropriate bylaw be passed by council upon consideration of this report and registered on title for the subject lands thereafter. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells. This is one that I believe Councillor Watson declared a conflict on. Is there any discussion on this item? All those in favor? And that is carried. Next is with regard to Seniors Planners Report application for an extension to approval of draft plan of subdivision. The motion reads that council approve the application, which proposes to extend draft plan of subdivision PS 0615 submitted by Brandy Clement of Jones Consulting Group, the agent, on behalf of Clear Valley Inc., care of Vito Donato, the owner, for lands legally described as part of lots 22 and 23, concession 10, registered plan 51R33265, parts 4 to 6, former geographic township of Floss, in the town of Wasaga Beach, herein referred to as the subject lands. If I could have a mover and seconder for this, please. Councillor Kinney and Deputy Mayor Bray. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. We have a report from the Economic Development Officer with regard to the adventures of Tiki the Wonder Dog. The motion reads that council approve a one-time municipal funding contribution of $25,000 from the Economic Development Tourism Partnership budget to sponsor the Adventures of Tiki the Wonder Dog book and film production, subject to the execution of the agreement attached as Appendix A, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the associated agreement. Do I have a mover and seconder? Deputy Mayor Bray and Councillor Watson. Any discussion on this? Councillor Kinney.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say that I think this amount of money, I think, will go well, and it quite possibly will be very good for the town. Because if we're looking at increasing young people in our community, something like this could help to draw, just because of the notoriety that it might bring, not just through the province, but internationally. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I know when I met with them last year, they were quite excited about the project, and Caitlin's managed to work with them. And so I think it's very exciting, and I think it will be great for our community, a happy family type thing. So very exciting. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Next is the CAO's report regarding the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, request for ideas about new Ontario park experiences. The motion reads that council received the communication from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks pertaining to the request for innovative ideas pertaining to recreation experiences and services in Ontario parks, and that council authorized the Chief Administrative Officer to respond to the request for information issued by the ministry with the ideas outlined in his report dated February 24th, 2022. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells. Is there any discussion on this item? Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, this is fairly exciting news from the ministry. I was going to point out that the Ontario Parks is inviting and looking for innovative recreation experiences for people to enjoy at the provincial parks. And they are inviting persons, organizations, nonprofits to submit their ideas to the province. And there's a website on the report. I won't mention it right now, but it's in the agenda package here, where they can submit to it. So businesses in town have an opportunity to make presentations to the province to operate within the park system. And that's pretty nice news. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I do have other people on the list here to speak, but George, maybe you just wanted to touch on, they're looking for ways, I think, to make money on their property with outside groups doing it. So ideas that are just for recreation or that they would need more staff and things is not what they're looking for. They're looking for kind of business opportunities.
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship. So in the letter that the minister sent at the beginning of the month, he outlines what they're looking for. And it's essentially creative business ideas that entrepreneurs could undertake within the park, with the goal of not only them making some money, but increasing visitation to parks that have capacity to accept more visitors, and looking at it with a focus for off-season type events and activities. So it was basically geared toward the private sector, but it was addressed to yourself, Your Worship, and copied to myself. So we looked at it from the perspective of what activities or programs could the town suggest that would increase visitation to the park, make it more attractive, fitting within the municipal mandate. And so there's a list of 5 items there. There's probably other items and ideas out there. Part of the intent of putting it on the agenda today, Your Worship, was exactly what Councillor Watson did, is to kind of make people aware that there is this opportunity to submit a proposal. I think the letter is dated February 10th and the due date is March 4th. So it is a very tight turnaround, but I think they're just looking for ideas at this point. So anybody with ideas can follow the website that's outlined and submit their ideas, and the ministry will review those and potentially take them to the next stage. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. And with most things that we get, just like our delegation today, it's always a short timeline. So you have to be on the ball. So it would definitely spread the word about it. Councillor Kinney.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to draw my attention to the part about the Nordic Center that was in our report. I do think that's a underutilized facility down there, and I think it could very well be enhanced and grown and become a four-season destination for both residents and tourism if done right and with the right motivation. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Blanchet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Maybe just a clarification from our CAO. I had sent in quite a number of ideas to his attention. Will that be added to your report, or should I go directly to the website and add them in?
Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Worship, through to the councillor. Some of them are associated with the ideas that were put in the report, so they'll just be there to enhance the ideas. Some of them were maintenance items that I'll pass on to the park superintendent because they deal with more programming matters. And I understand where the council was coming from, with respect to, maintenance of picnic tables and that kind of thing. But those are maintenance things that we've often asked, and I think we can ask again. So I will review the items that he has submitted and incorporate where best they should go, whether it's in supplement the information I have directly to the park superintendent, or form part of the input into the park master plan in terms of the overall plan for the park.
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure what all was encompassed under services, but the one I would like to speak to publicly, because when we talked about the development of the beachfront and the elimination of quite a bit of the surface parking, it was indicated that the parks have to step up and possibly provide increased parking, and that would fall under services. So I definitely believe that should be addressed in our response. We had indicated, possibly that they would need to consider a parking structure, but even today, much of the parking that's available within the park is drifted with sand and is not viable to be parked in all year round. So I think that definitely falls under services. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you. Really didn't have much to add. I mean, it was exciting to see that the province is asking for input. I think it would be really nice if they took ownership of that park and helped us market it as more than a natural resources, unkept park. I think we all know that it truly is a jewel. So perhaps we should reach out individually to kind of suggest things that maybe don't fall within the mandate, but that they need to hear, like a parking structure with a sunset viewing station. There's a million and one things that they could be doing with that land. Anybody else who owned it would be. So it would be nice to reach up to the province and remind them that they hold that jewel and they should be doing something with it, including repairing the picnic tables and the park. So thank you, Councillor Boulanger, for reminding us of that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I've already read the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried. Next, we have a resolutions regarding geosands, WDI and WRSI. The following resolutions signed by the sole shareholder of the corporation are hereby passed pursuant to the provisions of the Business Corporations Act, Ontario, the Act. Appointments of directors, whereas Javed Khan tendered his resignation as director of the corporation effective January 24th, 2022, and Brent Wilson withdrew his application as a director of the corporation effective January 21st, 2022, and whereas there are currently vacant positions for directors of Wasaga Distribution, Inc., Accordingly, it is resolved that Raymond Trask and Andy Ferguson are hereby elected or appointed as directors of Wasaga Distribution, Inc., effective March 1st, 2022, to hold office until the meeting of the shareholder to be held in January 2023, or until their successor is elected or appointed. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Watson and Councillor Kinney. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Next is the CAO's verbal update regarding COVID. Hopefully this will be your last one.
Thank you, Your Worship. We can only wish. Thank you. I'm going to be joined today by Craig Williams. He may be joining us by phone today as he is at Station 2, and our communications coordinator, who will be giving us the update on the provincial changes that have come over the last couple of weeks. So I think, Your Worship, we'll start with our communications coordinator, then we'll go to our deputy chief.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll start at the beginning of the month and work my way up to the last day or so. The province's science table noted back on February 1 that COVID cases, hospitalizations, and ICU admissions will likely expand in the coming weeks as restrictions ease. However, to what degree is hard to say. On February 4, Ontario said it was easing restrictions at long-term care homes. That was starting Valentine's Day, February 14th. February 9th, to further support the province's easing of public health measures, the Ontario government said it was expanding access to free rapid testing kits to the general public for at-home use. Ontario will be distributing 5 million rapid tests each week for 8 weeks through pharmacy and grocery locations across the province. Starting February 10, Ontario allowed hospitals to gradually resume non-urgent and non-emergency surgeries and procedures. And the science table said on Thursday, February 10, that people should change the way they use rapid antigen tests after determining that nasal swabs are less sensitive to the Omicron variant. Instead, the table said that tests can be more accurate if both cheeks are swabbed in addition to the back of the tongue or throat prior to going up the nose. February 4, the province said Ontario would move to the next phase of reopening starting February 17th, and this took place. Details about this are available on our COVID-19 information page. Further restrictions, the easing of them is set for March 1, and this includes lifting capacity limits in all remaining indoor public settings. Ontario government said February 21 that it is providing more standalone HEPA filter units to schools and childcare centers. The province says up to 40,000 more air purifiers will be made available to schools and 9,000 to childcare settings. And the province's financial watchdog, the Financial Accountability Officer, released a report yesterday saying that the Ontario labor market has rebounded to pre-pandemic levels, but recovery is uneven in sectors. Now, the report noted that 344,000 jobs were added in 2021 and that the unemployment rate dropped to 8% from 9.6% in 2020. And that's sort of my provincial highlights as they relate to COVID.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any questions of Mr. Jennings? Seeing none, we'll move on to our Deputy Chief, Craig.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, member of council. This week, we are continuing to see improvement in several of the provincial and local COVID-19 metrics, and this includes testing positivity rates, the number of hospitalizations, as well as the number of community outbreaks. As the province cautiously and gradually removes restrictions, of course, this progress is both encouraging and welcoming news. So provincially, there have been a total of 1.09 million laboratory confirmed COVID-19 cases, including 12,347 deaths. There are currently 254 individuals admitted to ICUs across the province with COVID-19 related illnesses, and that includes 164 who are on ventilators. Of the ICU admissions, 46% of them are either unvaccinated or partially vaccinated. The provincial testing positivity rate currently sits at 10.8%, and provincially 90% of the population over 5 years old is either fully or partially vaccinated. More locally within Simcoe Muskoka, we've seen a total of 34,741 laboratory confirmed cases, and that includes 396 deaths. There are 42 individuals who are currently hospitalized in Simcoe and Muskoka, and the percent positivity rate is now 9.1%. Regionally, 96% of acute care beds and 75% of ICU beds are currently occupied. There are a total of 23 identified active outbreaks within the region, including 12 institutions, 4 congregate living settings, and 7 education settings. And locally, 85% of those above the age of 5 are either fully or partially vaccinated. And I'll just conclude with saying that, as always, updated information is available on the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit website, and I would encourage residents to visit that website regularly for more information. This concludes my update, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Craig? Okay, thanks, Craig. Back to you, Mr. CIO.
Thank you, Worship. So the command team met last week to go over the situation at the town, and we saw the opening of different facilities on Thursday, February 17th, as the province eased some of the restrictions. We increased capacity limits for indoor social gatherings and public events to 50. We removed capacity limits for meeting and event spaces, and implemented capacity limits at the Wasaga Stars Arena at 50%. On Tuesday, March 1st, pending the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit continuing with any COVID restrictions in Simcoe County due to higher than average hospitalizations, the town will be lifting proof of vaccination requirements to use the arena, recplex, library, and other facilities, lifting capacity limits in all remaining indoor public settings. The Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit is concerned about the higher than average hospitalizations in Simcoe County and may not follow the provincial lead with these requirements. We're waiting to hear back from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit on what their decision will be. The YMCA is waiting for the health unit decision as well. They will be continuing with active screening and masking. For the time being, following provincial directives, mask wearing will continue, as will the requirement that employees self-screen. The town continues to see some absences due to the Omicron variant and new isolation requirements. We currently have 3 staff off work, isolating at home, and the peak was the first week of January. So we have not seen any higher than what we saw then. The command team is reviewing public access to town hall, recplex, and other facilities where the public has access to determine if we can eliminate the physical distance markers and revert back to pre-COVID circulation patterns. Finally, the clerk is working with the command team on the timing of return to in-person council meetings. As members of council would recall, in November of 2021, council approved an upgrade to the audio and visual equipment in the council chamber. Council also approved the resumption of in-person council meetings when the work was completed. Unfortunately, the work has been delayed due to a shortage of wireless microphones. Council further decided that the public would be welcome back to attend meetings in person when the province lifts all restrictions pertaining to physical distancing, COVID screening protocols, including proof of vaccination and face coverings, and following the recommendations of the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. At this point, the province has given no indication of when it will be lifting masking requirements. Your Worship, I believe I said that the command team met last week. I think we met earlier this week. So it was earlier this week that we met. So that concludes my comments, and I'd be happy to take any questions that members of council may have.
Thank you. Yes, sometimes the days blur. It was definitely this week. Any questions for George? Okay, seeing none, we do have a motion here that council received the February 24th, 2022 verbal COVID-19 update from the CAO for information. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wells and Councillor Watson, all those in favor? And that is carried. Community announcements. I'll start with my top row, Councillor Boulanger.
Yes, a very late month. I believe I attended, and thank you, Your Worship. I attended the one grand opening, the Beach Babes Beauty Bar that replaced the Key Company on Mosley, and continued to take some questions and follow-ups related to some resident concerns, and continued hiking and sharing the beauty of our natural resources and provincial park with many people on Facebook. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kinney.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, light month, but I want to congratulate Councillor Boulanger on his photo taking and his posting, because it does help and lighten, I think, a lot of people's days, that there is a lot of good things to see in the provincial park. As a result of that, myself and my wife, we're still cross-country skiing when it's not overly icy like it is today. And we're close, well, actually we're over 300 kilometers, so that's a good movement. And besides that, I think with the rest of the town and the province and the whole country and the world, we're hoping this pandemic is slowly not going away, but being able to be taken in and become part of what our world is going to be like. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you, Mayor Bifulci. Heartbreaking to see what is happening in our world. I think we went to sleep with one view and woke up with another, and just wanted to reach out and we offer condolences, good luck, best wishes, all of the things that all of those people that have family and friends across the way in the Ukraine, in Russia, in countries that are doing things that we who are fortunate to live in a democracy should not need to watch our friends suffer through. So I just wanted to reach out to the locals and say our hearts and our prayers are certainly with you. Again, with the others, it was a fairly quiet month. Nice to see the beauty bar opening. Exciting to hear the optimistic enthusiasm from a business owner who's expanding her business. And lots of meetings in between. The Age Friendly Committee was active, and we actually made a virtual presentation to the Probus Club. So I think you can feel a little bit of energy in our town. Snowman Mania, though the weather didn't cooperate. Again, I think things are hopefully starting to return on a new scale. There's often people at the rink when I drive by. So happy March, it's almost here.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, a relatively quiet month, a few inquiries, and I was just able to redirect people to where they can get the information they were looking for. Attended also the opening of the beach bar, beauty bar, and also attended the check presentation by the Anstey family to the town for the Arena Library. The Anstey family have a huge history here in Wasaga Beach, and if the public go to our website, they'll see the background that the Anstey family have here. Notable is that Doug Anstey, the patriarch, I guess, of the family, was one of the private contributors that built, as a private venture, built the original Wasaga Stars Arena and operated it for a few years. So again, a very committed, sincere history of that family to the town of Wasaga Beach. So pleasure to see them. Other than that, it was, again, a quiet month. I do admit that I am ready for the end of snow and the end of cold. I don't say very often that I'm sick of, but I am sick of snow and cold. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watson?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Wells, for talking about the Anstey family. That's yes, it was very nice of them to make a sizable donation to the arena for a one of the change rooms to see the Anstey name stay on this new facility. And as you mentioned, Doug Anstey was one of 5 original partners that built that facility at the time. So 50 years later, it's still standing and going forward. I attended the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority annual general meeting in January, and I continue to assist residents with permitting issues. I attended, as did Councillor Wells, the Wasaga Society for the Arts. They had the gallery, the art gallery was reopened again when they were able to, through when some restrictions were lifted, and they had a very nice show there called Perceptions, some photography work. It was very nice, done by local artists. Also attended the opening of Beach Babes Beauty Bar. The Wasaga Beach and District Builders Association were able to meet back in person. I attended their general meeting this month. I also had the pleasure of attending the Royal LePage Ski and Snowshoe Day, which is held every year for the last 37 years. This was the 37th annual, in support of hospice, Campbell House Hospice. Every year, I think they raise, and I think it varies due to COVID, but they probably raise at least 20,000 plus each and every year, and you multiply that by 37 years, they've contributed a tremendous amount of money to that facility. So I congratulate them on another successful day. And I think that is it for me, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. For myself, I attended the chamber meeting, county council, the county's regional government committee meetings, of which I'm the chair, arena and library steering meetings and construction meetings, Wasaga Beach Women's Business Association. I had my 3 Wasaga Distribution Board meetings this morning, the ribbon cutting at Beach Babes Beauty Bar, so congratulations to Faith. I also had a Zoom meeting along with our CAO with the OLG reps a couple of weeks ago now, and they've committed to coming to update council and the community in the near future. So we're just trying to work out a date for them to come and touch base, because we haven't seen them in a while, and we're hoping that Gateway will join them on that. Do you have a date for that yet, George?
Worship, we do not have a date at this point.
Okay, thank you. And that is it for me. Notices of motion, I see none. Notices where motion has previously been given, I'm not aware of any. Calling of committee meetings, Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Worship. So we're now looking at the month of March, and on Thursday, March 10th at 9 a.m. is our coordinated committee meeting. On Thursday, March 24th, we have our scheduled council meeting, and that will be at 2 p.m. And at this point, both meetings are going to be held virtually. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to bylaws. I will note, I believe it was bylaws 17 and 18 that Councillor Watson is declaring on. So we will do all others with the exception of those first. Resolved that the following bylaws be received to be deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered as follows. 2022-12, a bylaw of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach to authorize the borrowing upon amortizing debentures in the principal amount of $3 million towards the cost of the Main Street Bridge. 2022-13, a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement between the Town of Wasaga Beach and Her Majesty the Queen and Right of the Province of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Municipal Modernization Program. 2022-14, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a lease agreement for 1888 Klondike Park Road. 2022-15, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a license agreement with TransCanada Energy Limited for access to property to commence drainage works. And 2022-16, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-82 to prohibit or regulate the injuring or destruction of trees in the town of Wasaga Beach. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Kinney, and Counselor Watson. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. And we'll do the next two together as the Counselor Watson declared on them. 2022-17, a bylaw to exempt certain lands from part lot control pursuant to section 50-7 of the Planning Act in respect of lands described as BLK or Block 1, Block 2, Block 3, Block 5, Block 6, and Block 7, Plan 51M 1203 in the town of Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe, Haymount Investments Limited, Stonebridge by the Bay. And 2022-18, a bylaw to exempt certain lands from part lot control pursuant to section 50-7 of the Planning Act in respect of lands described as Block 4, Plan 51M 1203 in the town of Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe, Haymount Investments Limited, Stonebridge by the Bay. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Kinney, Deputy Mayor Bray, all those in favor? And that is carried. Next, we'll be moving into closed session. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Belanger resolved that pursuant to section 239(2)A of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the February 24th, 2022 regular council meeting will move into closed session to discuss the security of the property of the municipality or local board. All those in favor? And that is carried. And we'll just take a few minutes to move in camera.
We're live, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you very much. We're back from our closed session. We have a motion that council receive the verbal report from the CAO provided in closed session pertaining to beachfront negotiations. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells, all those in favor? And that is carried. Closed session minutes resolved that council received the following closed session reports as circulated and approves all actions contained therein. Regular meeting of council, January 27th, 2022, closed session minutes. Coordinated committee, February 10th, 2022, closed session minutes. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney, Councillor Watson, all those in favor? And that is carried. Confirmatory bylaw, if I can have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney, Councillor Belanger, 2022-19, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach at its regular meeting held Thursday, February 24th, 2022. Did I read that wrong? Yes, I did. I sorry about that. Is that wrong? I've got the bylaw there and then resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach at its regular meeting held Thursday, February 24th, 2022 be received and be deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time, passed in number 2022-19. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.